Please silence all of your electronic devices. I'm pleased to welcome you to our annual baccalaureate service and our 130th commencement exercise of our 147th school year. Morehouse was founded in the Silver Bluff Springfield Baptist Church in the city of Augusta, Georgia, in 1867. Our history may be traced back to 1787, when Old Springfield Church was founded as the oldest independent church of any denomination, according to the United States Interior Department. The baccalaureate sermon is the occasion for our college to recognize spirituality as a fundamental enterprise in liberal arts education, and that religion and faith play integral roles in adding meaning, values, and depth to the human experience. Now, as is our custom, we will introduce some very special people. I now invite the trustees of the college, members of the Morehouse Corporation. If you're present, please rise. Trustee wives, are any of the wives of our trustees present? If so, you may also stand to be recognized. The First Lady of our college, Dr. Carol S.B. Wilson. Members of the Morehouse College alumni, which numbers 15,000 worldwide, won't you please rise? The alumni. Members of the faculty and staff, please stand. And now the people who made this day possible, would all the parents and guardians please rise? And now their great gift to the world, the great class of 2014. We also welcome today our preacher, the Reverend Dr. Jonathan Walton, an alumnus, class of 1996. Class of 1996. Attorney Yvonne King Gloucester, the wife of our 7th president. Mrs. Yvonne Gloucester, would you rise? Dr. and Mrs. Samuel Du Bois Cook, President Emeritus of Dillard. Are they in the house? Okay. Dr. and Mrs. Doctors Robert and Cheryl Franklin, our 10th president. Are they present? Absolutely. Now I turn your attention to the back of your program, where you will see the names of all of those members of the alumni who have passed into the light during the past year. You will note in this class the names of two members, class of 2014, Brandon Keith Huff Bennings and Clayton Roland Cross. I now invite the president of the senior class to come forward and to light the candle of the Mystique in memory of all of our alumni who've passed this past year, Mr. Ryan Kyle Rucker, Now I want all of you, in memory and in thanksgiving for their contributions, bow your head in a moment of silence. Let everyone say amen. I'll now invite everyone to rise for the evocation by the Reverend Mr. Ernest Andrew Brooks III, the Assistant Dean of King Chapel.
Good afternoon. Shall we pray? Dear God, as we assemble in this place from near and from far, as friends and family members of the graduating class of 2014, and the alumni, faculty, staff, trustees, and supporters of dear old Morehouse, our hearts are brimming with great pride and immeasurable joy, and our minds are racing ahead to imagine the bright and prosperous futures that await each of these young men. Every one of these imagined futures has its own plot, its own cast of characters, its own set of protagonists and antagonists, its own mountaintops and its own valleys. Each of these imagined futures is at this point, at best, a script in development that will face many edits, revisions, and versions. As we send these young men forth from the formative cocoon of Mother Morehouse into the seemingly limitless possibilities of the world, we ask a critically important question of you, the one whom we call divine. What does it mean, dear God, to be truly free? Does it mean to live without boundaries, limitations, expectations, rules, or requirements? What does it mean, dear Master, to be truly free? Does it mean to leave this nest and to never look back? Does it mean to cut ties with the past and to burn the bridges that we have traversed thus far on life's journey? What does it mean, dear Lord, to be truly free? Does it mean to do what one wants, when one wants, and how one wants? Lord, on the eve of the 130th commencement exercises of Morehouse College and the sending forth of the great class of 2014, we ask that you would teach us what it means to be truly free, lest we fall into the seductive traps of egoism and individualism and narcissism and escapism. Teach us what it means to be truly free, to live passionately, to love deeply, to to lead ethically, to serve diligently, to work tirelessly, to play purposely, to invest prudently, and to give liberally. Teach us what it means to be lovers of humanity, agents of change, conduits of hope, promoters of peace, builders of community, and architects of the future. Teach us all, but most especially, teach these your young, accomplished, and promising sons what it means to be truly free as they leave the red clay shores of 830 Westview Drive and launch out into the deep unknown, not just as men, but as Morehouse men. As these young men leave this laboratory of leadership, excellence, and service, teach them and teach us all what it means to live into our destiny as creative agents of change and determined designers of new possibilities. Teach us what it means to live knowing that our lives are not our own, acknowledging that we are but strands in a dynamic tapestry that stretches from eternity to eternity. Teach us what it means to be human. Teach us what it means to be free. Teach us what it means to never stop learning, even as we transition from student to teacher. As we look to the exciting, hope-filled, yet mysterious future of possibilities and potential, we pray on this day, as did the psalmist, dear Lord, that you would teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart full of wisdom. This is our prayer. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Brooks. Well, Reverend Brooks, I was getting a little confused there. I was thinking it was Sunday morning, not Saturday afternoon. Thank you. The Spirit's moving. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize one of our sons of Morehouse. Dr. Lewis Sullivan is here. Dr. Sullivan? Dr. Lewis Sullivan, and former Secretary of Health and Human Services, founder of the Morehouse School of Medicine, truly a Morehouse man and an idol for all of us. Glad to have you. Good afternoon. For 147 years, Morehouse College has been engaged in the American Academy as a character-building institution for young men seeking higher education. The college's imprint on the intellect and moral fiber of its graduates developed from its origins in the prophetic religious tradition into a pedagogical philosophy of global ethical leadership that inspires a moral cosmopolitan perspective of the beloved world community. Dr. Hugh M. Gloucester, our seventh president, said that Martin Luther King Jr., the class of 1948, was the archetype of an educated person, one who combined academic achievement and professional success with personal integrity and social concern. Gloucester further said, the life of Martin Luther King Jr. was worthy of emulation by all. The emulation of a moral global servant leader is the very essence of the Morehouse Mystique that is often mistakenly cliched, but is well-defined and intentionally infused into the orientation of men of Morehouse. From their first ceremony during freshman week, when they receive the candle of the Mystique, until these final ceremonies of baccalaureate and commencement that we embark upon today. Baccalaureate is the occasion when the graduating senior class hears a final sermon that reaffirms our foundations in the prophetic religious tradition of Springfield Baptist Church. For this reason, the dean of the chapel leads the baccalaureate procession of seniors into the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel. The baccalaureate service of the Western Academy has its roots in the antiquity of ancient Africa, where there was no separation between science, philosophy, and the sacred. We further reclaim the traditions of our heritage as we observe the symbols of universal truths from ancient African kingdoms that are carved into the presidential chair, medallion, and mace that are traditionally bestowed upon the president of Morehouse College. President John Wilson received these symbolic implements of academic ideals, ethical leadership, and wisdom at the time of his inauguration. As a person charged with preserving these traditions, and as a sign of his authority and mastery, the president was presented with another important symbol, the college mace. Today, the college mace was escorted into the chapel by the Grand Marshal, Dr. Tobe Johnson, our longest-serving faculty member. The college mace is located behind the chair where Dr. Wilson is seated. Young gentlemen, at the end of this service, the candle of the mystique that was lit at the beginning of your academic journey at Morehouse will be extinguished. This will symbolize our expectation that the light that beacons pathways to freedom and opportunity and that dispels shadows of self-doubt is now instilled within you. It is our hope that you will become the light that illuminates darkness and shines on every man and woman who cometh into this world. Thank you, and congratulations to all of you.
Good afternoon. Today's Bible scripture comes from the book of Psalms, chapters 139, verses 1 through 38. For the chief musician, a psalm of David. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my down sitting and my rising up. You understand my thought afar off. You comprehend my path and my lying down, and art acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You have hedged me behind and before, and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain unto it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend up into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from thee. For you have formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they were all written. The days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. How precious also are your thoughts unto me, O God. How great is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would be more in number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. May we accept a rich blessing from the reading, hearing, and doing of his word.
In the 21st chapter, the book of Revelation, John, also called the Revelator, concludes his apocalyptic vision through narration of a very hopeful scene. John said that he saw a new heaven and that he saw a new earth, for the vast and infinite old heaven and all 6 sextillion tons of the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. John said that he also saw the holy city. He said that he saw a new Jerusalem come down out of heaven, grand, ornate, and splendidly adorned. John said that there were 12 gates to that city, that a crystal brook ran through the middle of it. John said that there was a tree there whose leaves were good for the very healing of the nation, that the streets of that city were paved with gold. John saw a new heaven and a new earth, whereon the swords were turned into plowshares and spears had been converted into pruning hooks. On that new earth, the petty differences of our own time had been dissolved as lion and lamb lie down together, and none were afraid. And some would deride and ridicule the Revelator's vision. They would point to the foolishness of his foresight. Others might dismiss his dream as silly. But I want to suggest that at least John had the courage to dream. At least John had the courage to write his vision. At least John was able to see beyond the pernicious problems of his present to behold newer, bolder, more glorious possibilities for the future. And so I take issue not with his vision, but I take issue with the limits of it. John's eschatological vision is limited. John does not go far enough. Something critical is missing from his monumental breadth of view. John declares that he saw a new heaven and a new earth. But for some strange reason, he could not see those new men. If he saw them, he certainly made no mention of them. He mentions 24 elders. He mentions a great number that no one could number, but nowhere does he make mention of those new men. John said that he saw a new heaven and a new earth and a new Jerusalem, but he did not see the new men whose minds and hearts would build them. And so I stand before you today in the prophetic tradition of John the Revelator. I too see a new heaven and a new earth. I believe that a newer, better future is possible. I too see a new heaven and a new earth. But as I look out from here today, I declare to you that I also see the new men who will be active participants in making the new world so. I see new men. They're not the young boys that their loved ones dropped off at 830 Westview Drive, Southwest 4 years ago. These are new men. They don't dress the same. They don't have the same values. They're well read now. There's something about their walk that is different. They don't talk how they used to talk, for they speak with the tongues of men and of angels now. I see new men, men of new strength, men who cannot be deterred from the pursuit of a righteous cause by an unjust no, because they have come through hell and fire and blood and tears with their heads held high. I see new men. The men I see think critically and analytically. They fight oppression and injustice courageously. They give generously. They serve selflessly. They love wholeheartedly. They dream vividly and unabashedly. I see a new heaven and a new earth formed and forged and shaped by new men. Men of science. Men of mathematical genius who will find cures to crippling diseases, who will answer the riddling universal questions and ensure that technology is used as a tool of freedom rather than as a contrivance of control and denomination. I see new men. Men of arts and letters who understand that a commitment to the life of the mind cannot be separated from a commitment to the livelihood of the people. Men who will work to create liberating representations of human life for the sake of freedom rather than ratchet buffoonery for the sake of $1. I see new men, judges and lawyers, ambassadors and statesmen, barristers and magistrates who are committed to ensuring that righteousness rolls down like waters and justice like an ever-flowing stream. I see new men who know that their Morehouse degree or any degree that they earn does not provide them a way to make money, but gives them a reason to make a difference. Men who will not make peace with mediocrity, but will pursue excellence in everything. I see new men who are committed to making that old heaven and the old earth with its racism, its sexism, its homophobia, its class antagonism, its poverty and lack, its war, its death and disease, with its hopelessness and despair. They are committed to making sure that that old heaven and that old earth pass away. Men who will level the mountains of despair. Men who will exalt the valley of low expectations. Men who will smooth out the crooked places and make rough places straight. So the glory of the Lord shall be revealed and all flesh can see it together. I see a new heaven and a new earth brought into being by new men. I see heavenly cities on the earth formed and forged by new men. Strong men, able men, steadfast, honest, true men. I see faithful and committed men, competent and courageous men, noble, valorous, and intrepid men, valiant men, gallant men, strong men. I see Morehouse men.
Good afternoon. You know, we invited Brother Magruder back here after just 3 years out. I wonder what's going to happen if we invite him at 6 years out or at 9. Very powerful statement. Amen. I'm pleased to welcome Reverend Jonathan L. Walton, Morehouse class of 1996, back home as well. He's going to take a brief departure from his duties at Harvard University, where he serves as the Plummer Professor of Christian Morals and Pusey Minister in Harvard's Memorial Church. As you will note in your program, Reverend Walton graduated from Morehouse College in 1996 with a BA degree in political science. And we would like to claim that it was the influence of his Morehouse education that propelled him to seek postgraduate theological studies at Princeton Theological Seminary, where he subsequently earned both the Master's and Doctorate of Divinity in Religion and Society. It is fitting that he be with us today, preaching in the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel, where his academic training began and where his theological interests were kindled. Moreover, we are comforted by the thought that Morehouse College, in some measure, helped shape his academic and pastoral aspirations and gave him the confidence that someday he could become the spiritual leader of an elite university's theological center and congregation. Professor Walton is a prolific and gifted writer whose research interests address the intersection of religion, politics, and media culture. He has published widely in scholarly journals and anthologies. His book, Watch This: The Ethics and Aesthetics of Black Televangelism, Religion, Race, and Ethnicity, examines the ministries of Creflo Dollar, T.D. Jakes, and Eddie Long. His messages, amen. I got the pause on that one. That's quite a combination. His messages on African American religious history continue to be shared in 2 forthcoming publications: a study on famed televangelist Carlton Pearson entitled Carlton Pearson, Pentecostalism Made Pretty, and in a forthcoming volume co-authored with Dr. Eddie Glaude of Princeton, entitled African American Religion in Black and Blue. This consummate theologian has also served in the academy and in the pulpit. He previously served as the officiating pastor of Memorial West United Presbyterian Church in Newark, New Jersey from 2001 to 2006, and as an assistant professor of religious studies at the University of California, Riverside, prior to joining the faculty of Harvard Divinity School in 2010. Through his numerous lectures and sermons from such prestigious pulpits as the historic Abyssinian Baptist Church and Ebenezer Baptist Church, Reverend Dr. Walton has imparted sacred messages of spiritual transformation and social change. Reverend Walton succeeds the iconic Peter Gomes in his ministry at Harvard University and is supported in his ministry by his wife, Cecily. Reverend Walton and his wife have practiced the African ritual of Nomo, the power of naming, as they have 3 children who have been named for very powerful ancestors: twins, Elijah Mays and Zora Neale, and a newborn named Baldwin. Now, please join me in welcoming to the podium Professor Jonathan L. Walton, Morehouse class of 1996, to deliver our 2014 Baccalaureate address.
To the President, President John S. Wilson, members of the Board of Trustees, administrators, faculty, staff, students, and wonderful family, we greet you in the name of our loving God. You know, I preach every week in the Harvard Memorial Church. And when I'm trying to prepare a sermon, and I'm really trying to get energized to represent the tradition I come from, because in Memorial Church, the most feedback you'll get is maybe a cough or a clearing of the throat. One time we had a guest that said amen. And I swear 2 pews jumped up thinking that somebody was having a stroke on the other side. And so I ask you, I'll pay y'all to take up a collection plate to send the happy preacher to Cambridge, Massachusetts. That would sure enough revive my ministry. Listen, I'm not going to keep you long. After hearing the Reverend Ernest Brooks and after hearing Brother David Malcolm Magruder, I really feel like Johnny Mathis or Pat Boone following James Brown. So I better make this quick. But there's just a couple of things that I would like to say. Number one, I would like to thank my family that is here, my dear sister Pam Walton Jenkins. She's a counselor over at Spelman. My godfather and godparents, Joe and Ave Marshall. Joe Marshall is celebrating his 45th anniversary for Morehouse College on this year. And when I was a little boy, it was Joe and Ave that used to bring me to the college glee club at Christmas concert. And we would sit up in the balcony up there. And it's there that I was inspired to cross through these burning sands called Morehouse College. And so I thank God for his presence today. I also want to thank my road dog came with me. President Wilson, another dear friend of mine, Clayton Spencer, was inaugurated 2 years ago as the president of Bates College, the alma mater of Benjamin Elijah Mays. And she had me come to participate in the inauguration, and I brought my son, Elijah Mays, with me so that we could tour the campus where his namesake, the person he's named after, attended. And we went to the Benjamin Elijah Mays Center, and he came back, and for the past 2 years, he's been telling everybody, I'm going to Bates College. So we were prepared to come to President Wilson's inauguration, and snow kept us away. So I brought him here because I told him Bates is a wonderful place. But you got to see Negro heaven. He may grow up on the campus of Harvard University, but the axis mundi, the center of the earth, is right here on Westview Drive. Again, to my dear friend, President Wilson, we thank God for him. We thank God for his paideia, what the Greeks called paideia, this kind of intellectual, educational cultivation. And we thank God for his phronesis, what Aristotle called practical wisdom. All of the moral virtues and intellectual virtues rolled together. As Zora Neale Hurston called it, being able to hit a straight lick with a crooked stick. But we also thank God for his parrhesia, that is to say, his frank speech. In this time where we need more serious and sober thinkers, it is a real blessing to have somebody who speaks honesty, openly, and with such candor concerning the condition and plight of our people. And so therefore, you should not underestimate the power of the office of the presidency here at Morehouse College, because all across this planet, people are talking about the very fine moral, ethical leadership of this president who is going to take Morehouse College into the next generation. And to finally, my father, who could not be with us today, his name's John Henry Eugene Walton, and he is John Henry before Parkinson's has started to take hold of his body. His name epitomizes who he is. He carries the strength of his world on his shoulders and carries a mighty axe. And I have to thank him because I'm looking at all of you parents out here. My father did not graduate from college, but he definitely earned an honorary degree from Morehouse College in 1996 because he paid the bill. And he comes to mind because I dare not start today celebrating these beautiful young men who have accomplished all that they've accomplished over the past 4 years without celebrating all of you, mothers, fathers, grandparents, godparents, siblings, everybody who sacrificed so much for them to be here today. Young men, stand to your feet, turn around, find your family members. Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. Habakkuk chapter 2. I will stand at my watchpost and station myself on the rampart. I will keep watch to see what he will say to me and what he will answer, what God will answer concerning my complaint to God. Then the Lord answered me, and the Lord said, son, write the vision. Make it plain on tablets so that a runner may read it. For there is still a vision for the appointed time. It speaks of the end, but it does not lie. Vision of a king. Having the vision of a king. On February 22nd, 1896, John Hope stood before the Black Debate Society of Nashville at a time that historians have described as the nadir of race relations in America. With the fall of Reconstruction in 1877 and the reforging of America's white republic, America's fragile experiment in multiracial democracy was seemingly over. Black codes regulating black mobility were enacted throughout the country. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution were being repealed via black imprisonment, the terror of lynching, and unjust systems of sharecropping. And to top it all off, on May 18th of that year, Jim Crow was codified into law when the United States Supreme Court handed down their decision of separate but equal in Plessy versus Ferguson. It was a sad and sick time in this nation's history. And it was in this context of growing economic inequality due to unregulated capitalism, in this context of growing racial strife due to economic anxiety, and in this context of white resentment due to the supposed gains of African Americans since slavery, that the future first African American president of Morehouse College cast a vision of hope for American democracy. John Hope rebuffed the high-flying fame of Booker T. Washington and his accommodationist Cotton States address. "Let us not fool ourselves or be fooled by others," he declared. "If we cannot do what other free men do, then we are not free. Cease to console yourself with the adages that numb the moral sense. Be discontented. Be dissatisfied." On that day, Hope's address was about social equality, not personal accumulation. And the Brown University-educated professor promoted healthy habits of mind and character, not Tuskegee's parochial gospel of work and money. And 118 years later, this is why, in part, we gather in this sacred space to celebrate you, my brothers, during this commencement season. We come to celebrate you in order to enlist you into service. We enlist you, brothers. We enlist you into service at a moment that this nation needs your moral vision. Like in the late 19th century, American democracy is at a crossroads today. A 30-year marriage between Washington and Wall Street has propelled our nation back to a state of economic inequality not seen since before the Great Depression. And due to the election of Barack Obama and the success of select African Americans at the highest levels of society, there are even those who believe that African Americans have crossed over into the proverbial promised land. A promised land that for too many folks looks like the Real Housewives, Married to Medicine, and whatever else a maxed out credit card can buy. So while we celebrate the individual success of select people, regardless of their color, until every child in this nation can have equal opportunity to sit where you are sitting now, there's still much work to be done. Sure, we have an African American in the White House, but his election does not change the fact that black unemployment rate since 2008 has remained double that of our white brothers and sisters. Sure, Apple might purchase Beats headphones from Dr. Dre, making him the first billionaire in hip hop. But that does not change the fact that the relative position of African Americans in relationship to the dominant society has not changed since 1963. And while this year, African American men such as yourselves will walk across stages of Morehouse, Harvard, and Stanford. Most of us would still not dare walk through the street with a hoodie in the rain, because over half the states of this nation have elected pernicious laws such as Stand Your Ground that have called killing season on young black folk. It's a sad and pitiful state of affairs. When reminiscent of the black codes of 100 years ago, a white man in Florida can be found guilty of attempted murder for 3 black teenagers that he didn't hit, yet be found not guilty of murdering the one he actually killed. And as long as the laws are written in such a way that all the cowardly George Zimmermans of this world can just say that they felt threatened by the presence of my son, we have to continue heeding the words of President Hope in 1896. Rise, brothers. Never say, let well enough alone. We've got work to do. And it's with these grim realities that I encourage you today. I encourage you today to heed the words of the prophet Habakkuk. Habakkuk, the Hebrew prophet of the 7th and early 6th centuries. We find him in the first chapter of his book having a crisis of faith. Habakkuk is concerned about corruption. King Jehoiakim of Judah was known for exploiting the poor and less privileged. The corrupt king often even employed unpaid labor to subsidize his own lavish building projects. Habakkuk is angry about inequality. The ruthless and unbridled accumulation of wealth by the most powerful is against God's standard of righteousness, he declared. The law has become slack, laments Habakkuk, and justice never prevails. The wicked surround the righteous, and judgment is perverted. Lord, what are you going to do? And it's this combination of concern for God's people and anger about exploitation that causes Habakkuk to cry out to God, how long? How long, O God? How long, O God, will we cry out for you and you will not listen? How long? How long, O God, will we cry out violence and destruction and you will not save? How long? How long will we cry your name, O Lord, but you'll leave us here in the midst of all this injustice? How long? But the storyline, my brothers and sisters, goes from bad to worse. Not only must he deal with the internal corruption from within Judah's government, Habakkuk must also face the reality of external violence from without in the form of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. At the end of the 7th century, y'all don't mind if I walk through this, do you? At the end of the 7th century, the Chaldeans took control of the mighty empire under Assyrian rule. King Nebuchadnezzar II disrupted King Jehoiakim's fragile alliance with Egypt. And Nebuchadnezzar's strong military built up settlements to the north of Jerusalem. And it was from this strategic military position that Nebuchadnezzar was well placed to ultimately sack the city of Jerusalem in 597. And Habakkuk interprets these developments as God's judgment on the kingdom for their sins. But Habakkuk says, I believe you're using a sledgehammer here to kill a gnat. Oh, this sort of death and destruction that military occupation will bring will only exacerbate the situation, make it worse for the less privileged. For in times of military and war battle, it's not the privileged and powerful who bear the brunt of suffering, but it's the most vulnerable in a society. So chapter 1 ends with Habakkuk appealing his case to God. And Habakkuk takes the stand concerning what he knows to be right against a God who has seemingly turned a blind eye to injustice. Habakkuk makes his case to God, upholding the ideals of justice. Are you not the Holy One? Are you not the God that is too holy that you can't even stand evil? Why does it seem that you're remaining silent, O God? The wicked are prospering. The people are looking to hear a word from you. Lord, you need to say something right now. And it's here in the 2nd chapter that God responds to the prophet. Habakkuk is right. God does deplore this sort of injustice, evil, and suffering. God's right. Habakkuk is right. God is the Holy One who loves his children. But he says, but there's a place you're wrong, Habakkuk. I'm not remaining silent. You are remaining silent. In other words, the Lord is saying, Habakkuk, while you're crying to me, you should be speaking out against injustice. You write the moral vision, and you make it plain for the people. And that's what I came here to tell you today, Morehouse College class of 2014. Oh, like Habakkuk, use your vision, and then you write the vision. Morehouse College has enabled you to see and imagine your world and your role in it quite differently. That's what having vision is all about. It's the capacity to see things not as they are, but according to the potential of what they can be. A visionary is one who dares to imagine and think outside the constructs and confines of the status quo. Someone who's not scared to take intellectual flight and look down at the world from a panoramic perspective. For it's from a higher intellectual altitude, like someone who can imagine and see the entirety of life's chessboard, that you have the capacity to see more than the move that's just been placed before you. But rather, you can imagine pending moves and even obstacles to come. That's what vision is all about. Oh, there's a difference, my friends. There's a difference between vision and a mere stare. It's like the difference between having information and being engaged. There's a qualitative moral difference here. There's many people in this world who see the problem. There are many who can regurgitate facts and figures. There are many who, like myself, can cry out from pulpits and podiums of this nation. And while this may be commendable in some regard, often it amounts to a blank stare. We stare at economic inequality. We stare at gender disparity and environmental destruction. We stare at racial injustice and religious intolerance. And what happens in the process? We devolve from W.E.B. Du Bois's conception of a talented tenth to an apathetic elite. Rather than working on behalf of the human race, we become indifferent and we begin to work for ourselves. Indifferent onlookers, voyeurs of human suffering. Thomas Edison used to say in regards to invention, that vision without execution is mere hallucination. I think that's appropriate here. For vision without engagement may not be hallucination, but it's procrastination. And we, my dear friends, we do not have time to stand around and stare. Generations yet unborn need you. Generations that preceded you need you, my brothers. In the words of the 19th century clergyman Maltby Davenport Babcock, we're not here to play dream adrift. We've got hard work to do and heavy loads to lift. We shall not struggle because it's God's gift. Be strong. Be strong, brothers. Say not the days are evil and ask who's the blame. Then fold up thy hands and acquiesce and cry out, what a shame. Stand up, speak out, and fight on bravely in God's name. Be strong. We need your vision. We need you to be strong. We need you to be socially engaged. We need you to be sober and serious about the plight of suffering in American society and this world. This is the difference between your being a man who attended Morehouse and a Morehouse man. A man. A man who attended Morehouse. A man who attended Morehouse knows how to look the part. A man who attended Morehouse knows how to sound intelligent. A man who attended Morehouse will have on a $1,000 suit and $50 in his pocket. This is not what we need today. Our nation does not need any more men who pass out business cards but don't have a moral ideal to call upon. And our nation, we don't need any more men who have expensive briefcases, yet they don't have a moral grip on society. Morehouse men, my brothers. Morehouse men are men of ideas and ideals, men of moral courage and commitment. Morehouse men worry less about material things, power and prestige, houses and land. But in the words of Benjamin Elijah Mays, a Morehouse man has a sense of mission and belief that God has sent him into the world for a purpose greater than himself. And it's these ideals that will keep us alive. Benjamin Mays used to tell students right here in King Chapel, fleecy locks and dark complexion cannot forfeit nature's claim. Skin may differ, but affection dwells in black and white the same. If I were as tall as the grasp the pole or grasp the ocean at its span, I must be measured by my soul, for it's the mind that continues to be the standard of the man and the woman. This is our call. This is our commitment. This is what it means to be a Morehouse man. This is what it means to have vision of a king and not just a blank stare. Oh, this whole narrative reminds me of a legend surrounding famed 19th century American chess master Paul Morphy. Now this is a story, my aspiring preachers, that has been told, butchered, embellished, and lied on by many a preacher. But I guess the old homiletic adage still holds true: never let the truth get in the way of a good story. But let me help you out and give you the truth to the story. The story was first reported in 1888 in the Columbia Chess Chronicle. And it tells the story of Mr. Paul Morphy from New Orleans, the chess master who's visiting his friend in Richmond, Virginia, the Reverend Robert Reed Howison. When he was visiting him there, he noticed a picture on the wall. It was Frederick Riche's 1831 painting entitled The Chess Players. This painting, it artistically captures the human condition. Faust's devil, Mephistopheles, has a confident and cruel smirk on his face as he's looking across the chessboard at a seemingly defeated young man who's playing chess for his soul. The gloating grin of the devil is only matched by the dejected and defeated demeanor of his seemingly defeated opponent. The chess master Morphy, he walks up and he looks at the painting, he inspects it from several views, and then he declares this game is not over. This young man still has a few more moves. And after recreating the chessboard in the parlor of the house, and to the amazement of all, Paul Morphy made a move that defended the young man's position and subsequently retrieved the game. Mr. Morphy's vision saved the king. And this is what I came by here to tell you this afternoon, Morehouse men. I came by here to tell you that no matter what this nation is going through on today, whatever obstacles may seem insurmountable, whatever trials may seem too much to handle in our society today, you are the kings of this nation on this moral chessboard. And you have to use your vision to call moral checkmate on racial inequality, checkmate on gender injustice, checkmate on poverty and poor education, checkmate on evil and suffering and all the ills that plague this world today. Why do you have to do that? Well, Howard Thurman already told us. He told us that Morehouse has placed a crown over the top of your head, and he's challenging you today to grow tall enough to wear it. Are you going to be the king of moral vision?
The selection you've just heard was composed by the chairman of the Morehouse College Music Department, Dr. U.Z. Brown, class of '72. Because the processional will begin moving from King Chapel promptly at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, with or without you. Parents, guardians, relatives, and friends will need to be parked and in your seats no later than 7:25 a.m. You'll have to do your morning devotions the night before. Now, this will allow you to avoid a traffic bottleneck and to view the processional on the wide screen from your seats on the Century campus. Now, from our sources in both the Weather Channel and the local weather stations that were just handed me, it appears that there's a 30% chance of showers tomorrow afternoon. The rain is scheduled for 2 p.m. and the temperature will be 69 degrees. Now I invite you to stand for the singing of the college hymn.
May we receive the benediction. The eminent Harry Emerson Fosdick penned words that were put into one of our favorite hymns. They have also become a benediction appropriate for an occasion such as this. These words are very simply, God of grace and God of glory, on your people pour your power. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the facing of this hour, for the living of these days, that we fail not man nor thee. In the name of our elder brother, even Jesus the Christ. Amen. Amen.